Planet Earth has produced hordes of marine reptile predators throughout its history, from the sleek mosasaurs to colossal ichthyosaurs to the dragon-like pliosaurs. This video will focus on a pliosaur, specifically the fictionalized, massively oversized Walking With Dinosaurs Liopleurodon. Can this gigantic, shark-crunching killing machine survive in the alien oceans of Planet 4546b? This isn't my first time experimenting with Earth sea creatures in the world of Subnautica, so I'd recommend checking out the Megalodon and Orca videos as well. Now let's dive in. The first thing to address is the internal logic of Subnautica. The animals that live on planet 4546b are strange and wondrous, and many are far larger than Earth critters could realistically get. Some even have seemingly supernatural abilities, and the food pyramid is mainly made up of large predators with not a lot of apparent prey items. Our population of 20 Liopleurodon, 10 males, 10 females, is actually quite a lot for the crater megabiome, although it doesn't seem like much from the perspective of an Earth ocean. We're going to have to follow Subnautica ecosystem logic, especially for the speculative evolution segment at the end of the video, so be prepared. Also remember, I've seen a lot of comments about how the Subnautica creatures are much smaller than their official sizes, but you have to remember that's due to the warped camera perspective of the first-person game. For those of you who haven't seen one of my videos before, the Thrive Rate in a Live system is a 1 to 10 score that predicts how successful a given organism would be when displaced from its original environment. Their overall score is an average of home, or how well they handle the climate and terrain, hunger, whether they can find reliable food, and hanger, or their response to native predators and competitors. We'll go through each biome of the crater from the first game, and then give the Walking With Dinosaurs Liopleurodon its scores before speculating about how it could evolve to fit its new home. We'll also need to cover the basic stats of Walking With Dinosaurs Liopleurodon, so we can understand how it might fit into the crater's various ecosystems. While real-life Liopleurodon was certainly a formidable predator the size of a large great white shark, this fictionalized documentary edition was absolutely monstrous. The only measurements we received in the series was that of an old bull, described as large even for his kind, that was 25 meters long and weighed 150 metric tons. We might expect typical adults then to be in the 20+ meter range, with masses around 75 to 100 tons. Anywhere in that range and up seems reasonable for an average. Liopleurodon are both hunters and scavengers, described as specializing in ambushing sharks and ichthyosaurs by attacking from beneath. They eat carcasses of giant fish like lead cichlids, which was also oversized in the Chased by Sea Monsters series, but it's unknown if they hunt them when live. They spend a lot of time in deeper water, and can hold their breath for over an hour. Now that you know the basics, let's throw Liopleurodon into the safe shallows. This is where you start the game. It's filled with basic resources, small fish, and colorful corals, without the presence of dangerous predators. And, as the name implies, this biome is quite shallow, at only a maximum of 80 meters below the surface. Most of it is almost too shallow for a fully grown Liopleurodon to even swim in comfortably, although young individuals might stay here when in need of a protected nursery. For food, we're looking at a wide array of sushi candidates. We've got bladderfish, boomerangs, floaters, garyfish, gasopods, peepers, and rabbit rays. We have to address the fact that gasopods emit toxic clouds when provoked, and so would not be ideal choices for food despite being the largest organisms in the biome. The rest of the fish range from cartilaginous gristle to fairly meaty meals, with boomerangs and garyfish perhaps representing the best options. Rabbit rays are poisonous, and so even though they look delicious, they'd be far from the best choice. Threats: crash fish. These little cyclops fish will self-detonate if they feel threatened, dealing enough damage to cause serious injury to humans. They lurk in the cave systems of the safe shallows and might claim the lives of a few young Liopleurodon who don't know any better. Hopefully the pliosaurs would learn quickly not to bother these aquatic anger grenades. The adults would very quickly move on from these cramped quarters to the next biome. Kelp Forest. At a depth of 0 to 160 meters, the Kelp Forest provides a lot more elbow room for giant marine predators. Unless, of course, you count the forest of kelp in the way. Thick tendrils of kelp cover the area, mixed with glowing creep vines. We do see a decent variety of prey items here. Bleeders are annoying but edible. Others include boomerangs, eye-eyes, hoopfish, hoverfish, peepers, inedible rabbit rays, and stalkers. These are reptilian seal-sized predators that have an inexplicable love for shiny objects and will fiercely defend their territory. For a grown Liopleurodon, however, they're nothing more than a light snack. Threats: potentially stalkers for very young Liopleurodon, but that's unlikely given how even the newborns of this fictitious pliosaur were likely at least stalker-sized. Their close relatives gave live birth, and it's likely that these baby sea monsters would have been precocial, or capable of living on their own soon after birth. The Kelp Forest might be an addition onto the nursery of the safe shallows, but it's still far from suitable for adults. Grassy Plateaus. This biome is further from the water's surface at down to 170 meters, but still nowhere deep enough to cause problems for our air-breathing reptilian menaces. There's wide open space here decorated with beautiful red grass and sand along with stone columns. Just as important, the menu gets a huge upgrade. For snack food, we've got biters, boomerangs, floaters, hoopfish, peepers, spadefish, and reginalds. Sand sharks are the largest edible animal encountered so far, at up to 3 meters long, and their armor won't be much protection against jaws the size of their entire body. Reefback leviathans are absolutely enormous, heavily armored drifters with living ecosystems on their backs. Their armor is so powerful that none of the native predators even attempt bringing them down. However, Liopleurodon has jaws much larger and wider than most of the endemic apexes, and may be able to use that to snap at the unprotected tentacles of these gentle giants. Threats. Possibly sand sharks for very young Liopleurodon, given they'd be bigger and more heavily armored than newborns. They tend to hunt smaller prey in the sand though, so I don't see them realistically being a threat. This area isn't too bad, but it could be better. Mushroom forests. The mushrooms go down into the deep, as far as 250 meters below the surface. Peepers, spadefish, and reefbacks are familiar faces in terms of the menu, with the addition of 2 newcomers: mesmers, which are tiny hypnotists that lure in their prey before biting it, and bone sharks, 4-meter armored predators with high aggression levels. Walking with Dinosaurs Liopleurodon specialized in hunting sharks, and the adults would be over the moon at this new yet recognizable food source. But good food comes at a cost. Threats include the 20-meter ampiel, an armored animal with a powerful electric defense that no sane Liopleurodon would try to eat. Jelly rays are graceful, large, and deadly toxic, and ignorant indigestion may claim the lives of several Liopleurodon before the pliosaurs wise up. Bone shark armor could be a problem for subadult or smaller Liopleurodon, and I wouldn't be surprised if the bone sharks went after newborn pliosaurs. For the sharks, it's a turf war with their own extinction on the line. Underwater islands. Now we're talking. Liopleurodon, as ambush predators suited to the open ocean, would love the 500-meter deep waters of this biome. Plenty of murky water to hide in. They'd be preying on bone sharks and reefbacks mainly, with the young focusing on boomerangs, garyfish, hoopfish, peepers, and spadefish. You know, the classics. Bone sharks again might be an issue for very young Liopleurodon, but the open water works to the pliosaur's advantage here. They'd be much more agile and could grow to huge sizes with relatively little concern for predators. Bulb zone. At 480 meters max, the bulb zone is more shallow but makes up for it in atmosphere. The bulbs glow purplish blue in the dark waters, providing ambient lighting for the various yummy animal crackers that haunt the depths. Bone sharks, boomerangs, eye-eyes, hoopfish, mesmers, peepers, and reefbacks float through the region, all ready for the eating. Unfortunately, ampiels also call the bulb zone home, and the Liopleurodons have learned for themselves that pursuing the zappy creatures isn't worth it. Warpers are a bioengineered life form with mechanical portions, essentially an underwater cyborg Slenderman engineered to hunt animals infected with the Kara virus that rages on the planet. If the Liopleurodon remain healthy, they'd be fine. If not, they'd suddenly be attacked by teleporting lobster ninjas that taste like metal. Most importantly, the bulb zone is occasionally visited by the planet's most iconic apex predator, the Reaper Leviathan. Reapers are up to 55 meters long of muscle and spikes, and their jaws, while proportionally small, are still big enough to crunch humans whole. They're highly aggressive and track their prey with powerful roars, so even dark water isn't enough to protect you. Reapers aren't native to the bulb zone, but will occasionally patrol its edges and attack victims close to their territories. The Liopleurodon would need to be very careful about whose attention they draw while in the bulb zone, but the food here is plentiful. It's a nice spot overall. Sea Treader's Path. Between 170 and 360 meters, this medium-depth biome is the migration route of the legendary sea treader leviathans. Essentially huge crustaceans, they sift through the seafloor for food and stagger drunkenly across sand like a muppet made of chopsticks. Their armor is thick and powerful, which might not be the most suitable for the long fish-piercing jaws of Liopleurodon, but perhaps exceptionally large Liopleurodon adults might make a meal of a limb or two. Other food items in the area include boomerangs, eye-eyes, hoopfish, peepers, reginalds, and spadefish. Warpers patrol the path, which again could cause problems for infected individuals. The sea treaders themselves are physically powerful, and although they're quite slow, can cause serious damage with their proboscis. The difficulty of hunting the native megafauna here may push the Liopleurodon to new waters. How about the Grand Reef? At down to 500 meters, there's plenty of room to set up ambushes, and there's also plenty worth ambushing. The smaller animals like bladderfish, eye-eyes, hoopfish, mesmers, peepers, and spadefish are great for baby Liopleurodon, while bone sharks form the bulk of adult diets. Adventurous Liopleurodon might attempt taking down the huge crab squid, but may find themselves dissuaded by electromagnetic blasts, leaving them dizzy. Warpers are still a problem here as well, especially for infected young. The biggest problem in the Grand Reef are the two adult ghost leviathans, enormous translucent creatures that typically eat microorganisms but will attack larger animals as territorial behavior. Their jaws are relatively small but powerful, and still big enough to cause serious damage to Liopleurodon. Their ram attack is like getting hit by an underwater train and could kill Liopleurodon adults on impact. These animals are not worth confronting. Perhaps the Crag field will offer a safer locale. At a maximum of 460 meters deep, it's still quite spacious. Boomerangs, hoopfish, mesmers, and reginalds may provide nutrition for young Liopleurodon. Bone sharks again find themselves one step lower in the food chain, and reefback leviathans might start wondering where their tentacles have gone. Threats are relatively sparse, with only bone sharks to pose problems for baby pliosaurs. Overall, the Crag field is an excellent spot to set up shop for the long term, but we're not done exploring yet. The blood kelp zone is our deepest biome yet, at 150 to 675 meters, well over 2,000 feet below the surface of the water. There's also barely anything to eat. Blighters and spinefish are minuscule even for babies. Add the presence of amphiols, warpers, and even the occasional unwanted cameo from a ghost leviathan, and we must conclude that this place sucks. The fridge is empty, and all the big animals want to kill you. Moving on. Mountains. Down to 500 meters we go. Unfortunately, despite the huge area available to move here, there's not much else to do, including eat. Biters, hoopfish, boomerangs, peepers, and reginalds aren't sufficient for adults, and add to that the presence of warpers and 7 reaper leviathans, the mountains are not a place to hang out, given the relatively low food yield here. How the reapers survive in a biome filled with swimming grains of rice is a mystery, but they'd welcome an influx of larger prey. Let's get out of here, gang. Dunes.
Listen, I gave!
Though there are no spice or sandworms to be found in the dunes, there's plenty to explore at a depth of 400 meters. The Fremen would be ecstatic with a diet of bladderfish, boomerangs, eye-eyes, garyfish, hoopfish, and spadefish, although the Liopleurodon would prefer to focus on the sand sharks present. Unfortunately, warpers still patrol the area, and you need to be Muad'Dib himself to clear the Kara virus from your system before being attacked. Oh yeah, and there are 8 Reaper Leviathans out for blood. May thy oversized teeth chip and shatter. The crash zone is still deep enough for ambushes at up to 370 meters on the far side of the Aurora, but living in this sandy, radiation-thick area next to a downed spaceship might not be the healthiest choice a Liopleurodon family could make. The food supply is fine, with the typical bladderfish, boomerangs, eye-eyes, wholefish, hoverfish, peepers, and reginalds for young uns. Bone sharks, sand sharks, and stalkers are fine for adults, but reapers hunt these waters. And did I mention the radiation? We don't want to live here if at all possible. Verdict. For home, Liopleurodon earns a surprising 8 out of 10. While some of the biomes in the crater are cramped, most provide plenty of space to move, hunt, and live without any issue. And with the Kara virus eventually being cured, these giant pliosaurs will be able to integrate into 4546b just swimmingly. Hunger is lower at 6 out of 10. The unarmored sharks and ichthyosaurs that Walking With Dinosaurs Liopleurodon preferred are no more, replaced by toxic rays, bone-covered predators, and giant Lovecraftian freaks, but it's enough to get by. Bone sharks and sand sharks end up as the meals of choice thanks to their large size. Hanger is also a 6 out of 10. Liopleurodon braunogai is essentially a movie monster of tremendous size and power, and while less than half the length of Reapers, is still fast, agile, and heavily armed enough to carve out a place for itself relatively high in Subnautica's food chain. This brings Liopleurodon's overall score to a 6.6 out of 10, above the 5.0 minimum required to maintain a stable population. Not too shabby. Let's give the huge pliosaurs a few million years to evolve and speciate, and then come back to see how they've changed.
15 million years later.
The Cythewing Leviathan. This descendant of Earth's giant lumbering ambush predator dwells in the Grassy Plateaus, blood kelp zone, and crag fields. Cythewings have much larger fins than their ancestors, along with a shorter torso to focus on agility and speed to avoid reapers. Cythewings maintained similar size to Liopleurodon at 20 to 25 meters, and their larger eyes permit enhanced eyesight to watch for ambushes in murky waters. They've also developed recurved teeth to grasp reefback tentacles, and their countershading mimics reefback patterns to aid in protection from stray reapers and ghost leviathans. Venom Killer Leviathan. These pliosaurs developed immunity to ray toxins, and shrunk down to thrive in the mushroom forests. Bioluminescence from metabolizing jelly rays is used as an honest signal of health during mating season. Venom killers have a keratinous hook on the premaxilla to capture rays, combined with long, eel-like teeth for piercing slippery prey. They use metabolized ray toxins as a defense mechanism, and have a longer neck to aid in prey capture along with larger eyes to effectively navigate dark waters. Their countershading helps them to blend into the mushroom forest with orange on bottom and dark grayish blue on top. Trenchmaw Leviathan. Trench maws split off from the blade-wing leviathan populations that specialized in reefback hunting, and after hunting juveniles became selected for much greater size and more powerful jaws to be able to take down armored bone sharks and reefback adults. Eventually, trench maws became titanic, and their diet expanded to include reapers, similar to the Megalodon's Ragnarok leviathan, and these alien pliosaurs became the apex predator of the surface biomes. Their scales became thicker and more like osteoderms in some areas, permitting more violent clashes over territory as well as protection from other leviathans. Adults measure over 80 meters long and have bite forces of 400,000 newtons, with crushing tyrannosaur-like teeth that could deal with reefback armor. But they weren't done there. Their combination of overwhelming power, speed, and agility, along with massively increased lung capacity, allowed them to travel deeper than any of their ancestors did. Their keen sense of smell let them track down the giant reptilian rivals they had yet to defeat, the sea dragon leviathan. Sea dragons are over 100 meters long and have a combination of claws, jaws, and tentacles, not to mention the ability to fire molten rock from their mouths. Trench maw leviathan armor is durable enough to defend against these sprays of projectile lava, and they'll go head to head with the sea dragons, coming out on top more often than not.
The trials begin. The sky will burn.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this nostalgia-fueled hypothetical scenario. If you enjoy questions like this, make sure to subscribe and check out the other speculative ecology projects I've got on the channel. Feel free to show your support by joining the channel as well. You get loyalty badges and shoutouts at the Raptor tier, along with additional early access to videos at the Mega Theropod tier. I'm the Vividen, and I'll see you next time.
It's a magical Liopleurodon, Charlie. It's come to show us the way to the island mountain. Maybe it'll take us on an adventure. To the inactive lava zone, Charlie. Island mountain, Charlie. La 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 la.